Welcome. Greetings of peace and love, miracle workers. This is Miracles with a Twist. It is June 1st, 2023. June 1st, it's a new month, new day, Pride Month. It's ordination month for Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary students. June 25th is our ordination. And it's the first day of hurricane season here in Florida. But most importantly, it's mid-year. It's time for us to reevaluate, re-examine, remember, refresh our spiritual intentions, the ways in which we prayed ourselves into 2023. So let's begin together in prayer. Nice deep breath in. Exhale into our hearts. We greet this time together with peace and love and joy and awe and gratitude. Looking at this mid-year opportunity to see how much we have risen as we pray harder, rise higher, love steadily, forgive readily. Following the voice, the inner nudging of our higher holy self. Together we move forward into this time together with the willingness to continue on this very sacred path together with such gratitude. So let's take another nice deep breath in and exhale into this moment. So today I was thinking about how the past 6 months have been, so much that has gone on, but even with the highs and the lows, what remains constant, no matter what we're going through, no matter what is happening in our lives, the good, the bad, the joys, the pain, all of it, whatever's going on, who we are through it is what truly tells us who we are and how far we've come on the spiritual path. So we choose, we make choices continuously, all the time, in our minds, in our behavior, in our interactions with others. A few weeks ago, I had a situation that was causing me some torment, mental and emotional torment. And when I'm tormented, my loved ones are somewhat tormented along with me. We all have to, sort of think through some big decisions. And this was a big decision I was faced with, which had to do with my little hospice foster dog. She was not doing well. She was sickly. And it was the opinion of just about everyone, including the guest I had for the weekend who was watching my little dog, that it was really time for her to go. Time for me to let her go. And I consulted with the founder and facilitator of the foundation that I was fostering the dog from. Beautiful, amazing woman by the name of Reverend Sarah Whitten. She is the founder of the One More Day Foundation. And One More Day Foundation places homeless hospice dogs in foster homes. So they find these dogs that have been let go or roaming the streets because they were no longer wanted. They were at the end of life. They may perhaps costing too much or creating too much problems for their owners. And so they're placed in homes. And I have this little foster dog. Her name is Titi Paloma. She's supposedly 17 years old. And she was really not doing well. She's a hospice dog, end of life. And so the time came that I had to make the decision. And so everyone was telling me that it was time, it's time for all many reasons. And we talked about the Rainbow Bridge and doggy heaven and what's right for her. So then I consulted with Reverend Sarah. And Reverend Sarah very kindly said something so simple. She said, choose heaven. Choose heaven for her. That was May 17th. On May 18th, I got up to go to the vet with Titi Paloma. But first, I wanted to do my lesson for the day from A Course in Miracles. Now, interestingly enough, during my upset and during my mental emotional torment, as I was consulting everyone and consulting oracle cards and trying to figure out what's the right thing to do, I didn't consult the Course in Miracles. I didn't consult my higher holy self. I didn't calm down enough. I didn't go into a quiet place for the knowing of the direction of what to do. It wasn't until I heard Reverend Sarah's beautiful voice telling me to choose heaven for her. So May 18th, I have my vet appointment, but first I open up to the lesson of the day. May 18th is lesson 138. And the lesson, I promise you, I had no idea. The lesson says, heaven is the decision I must make. In this world, heaven is a choice, because here we believe there are alternatives to choose from. In this world, we think there are so many choices. When we are upset, when we are triggered, when we are sad, even when we're happy, we think that there are choices that are choices other than heaven. The choice to make a judgment, to attack or counterattack, to defend ourselves. We have so many choices that we think are so important. But heaven is the decision I must make at any given time. To come from a place of love, to come from a place of compassion and kindness and caring, and trying to expand beyond my ego's dictates, my ego's desire to be satisfied in some way between personalities. So of course, making this decision was bigger than that, but remembering that the focus is always on heaven. Heaven being the symbol, a word, a symbolic word for coming from a place within our hearts, coming from our hearts. Let's dig deeper on that, see what that means. You need to be reminded 1,000 times that you think 1,000 choices are confronting you, and really there's only one to make. And even this seems to be a choice. Choosing depends on learning. Now, this is interesting. Choosing depends on learning, but truth cannot be learned, only recognized. And so we are constantly learning about ourselves. We're constantly learning about the things that affect us, that create reactivity in us, things that we need to respond to, things that we think we need to control. What it is saying is that those are just our thoughts. That's the world that we made up, the world that needs us to control it, to tell others what to do, how to do, who to be and how to be. Instead of knowing that there's a recognition, knowing is a recognition, an aha. That aha that occurs when we allow ourselves to just simply and silently be in receptivity of the direction that we need to take. And the direction is always going to be that which reflects the goodness of our higher holy self. That's what heaven is. That's where heaven is, right here within. In this insanely complicated world, heaven appears to take a form of choice rather than merely being what it is. It just is. It just is. If you spend days and days home with the windows closed and the blinds drawn, that doesn't mean there's not sunlight outside. It just means you're not seeing it. And so when we open the blinds and we see the light and we say, oh, I see it now. It's been there all along. I was looking at the clouds. I was looking at the darkness. I was focusing on the darkness. The light is always there. The truth is always there. Heaven, the choice for heaven is always there. It's always an option. Heaven is chosen consciously. The choice cannot be made until alternatives are adequately seen and understood. All that is veiled in shadows must be raised to understanding. Conscious choice of heaven is as sure as the ending of the fear of hell. So what is the fear of hell other than our own fear of that which we think is going to hurt us? We want things to be a certain way and to look a certain way and to unfold a certain way. And in our daily interactions with the world, it's not always going to work out that way. And so peace that we want to find within ourselves is the peace when we choose heaven, to find peace regardless of what it is that's going on out there. And regardless of some very difficult decisions we might have to make every now and then. So interestingly enough, today is being June 1st, says in our lesson for today, the power of decision is my own. It's lesson 152. The power of decision is my own. No one can suffer loss unless it be its own decision. You may believe that this is an extreme position. Salvation is the recognition that nothing else is true other than the truth of heaven, that it is your creation, your ability, your choice to choose heaven. The power of decision is our own. Decide but to accept our rightful place as co-creator of the universe, and all we think we made, all we think is so important according to our ego's dictates will disappear. What rises to awareness will then be whatever was eternally true. Only the ego can be arrogant. Truth is humble in its acknowledgement, its mightiness, its changelessness, and its eternal wholeness, all encompassing. Lay aside the fear of who you might be in the eyes of others. Lay aside the fear that you might have that you aren't good enough, that you can't rise higher, that you can't pray harder, that you can't love steadily and forgive readily, because the truth is that you can when you choose heaven. When you decide to put heaven first, when you decide to put your higher holy self first, then you can have your moment. You can have your moment and then recognize, I'm just having a moment. I'm being upset over this, that, and the other thing. And now I can take a step away from it to decide again, just choose again. We don't make really big mistakes. We just have little itsy bitsy things that are needed of correction. We just need to make corrections, gentle, kind, loving, self-compassion, compassion of others, corrections. That's all. We correct our thinking based on what we've learned, based on what we know, based on what we experience. And then we make a new decision. We decide to choose heaven. Here's a little something from the bumpy road to enlightenment. We need to learn to live from the truth of our being, not from the lie of our ego's influence. To do this, we need to be willing to see ourselves and each other with loving eyes, eyes of compassion. We need to adhere to a sense of kindness and acceptance that acknowledges without judgment the good, the bad, the old, the new, the child, and the adult within each and every person. And each one in that adult has a shadow as well as the light, as well as light. So when we're going through our understanding of who we have been this past year, and we're doing our refreshing of our minds, we're renewing, we're reviewing, we're looking, we're remembering everything that we came into this new year with great intention. And we see the places where we may not have done the best that we thought we could do. Those are just areas that are in need of correction. Those are just areas where we can just say, well, you know what, how can I do better? Oh yeah, that came from my ego. That came from my ego. It wasn't my best self. How can I do it better now? Because we're not going to get through this world having risen so high that we don't have our ego attachments, or we don't have our reactivity. We don't have areas that still need to be healed or corrected or reevaluated. But we're in charge of those decisions. We're in charge of our own self-inquiry, our own analysis, our own evaluation. And so we do that with the idea that as we start our day, we start with knowing that no matter what happens, no matter how the day goes, I'm going to choose heaven. I'm going to choose the way of heaven. And maybe at the end of the day, I could have risen a little higher. I could have done a little better. I may not have shown up as my best self. But it doesn't put me in a position to feel as though I can beat myself up or beat up anybody else, or even to be in harsh judgment of anyone else, because maybe we want to say, well, it's because of my interaction with them that that's the way I performed. It's just a reminder that that's an area that I still need to do better. And so we choose heaven. We continuously come back to this remembering and this understanding. Heaven is the decision I must make, and the power of decision is my own. I'm the one who's here making these decisions, making these resolutions. My mid-year spiritual resolution is to continue to rise higher, pray harder, love steadily, forgive readily as best I can, whenever I can. As we accept of God that which we are, we humbly recognize each other as being brothers and sisters, mighty companions, kindred spirits. We join in glad acknowledgement that lies are false and only truth is true. So what are the lies? The lies are the stories that are focused on the dictates of the ego that's saying it has to be a certain way. Because there's so many things that are not a certain way, not the way we want them to be. And it's not just about people, it's about circumstances, it's about the things of life, just the stuff of life. By the way, the dog did not get euthanized. The dog is still with us. She is still with us. She's still not well, she's still a hospice dog. But choosing heaven is a place of peace. Choosing heaven is to say, okay, you know what? I can make this decision today. And if it's not the right decision, I'll know when I get closer to time. And I did find out when I got closer to time because she had a little bit of a shift. She shifted. It's like her little doggy awareness went, yeah, I'm not ready to go. And things changed, her little body changed, the sicknesses that she was going through seemed to have adjusted themselves. We wait in silence, giving up self-deception as we humbly ask of ourself that our higher holy self be revealed. In patience, we wait. And hourly, we can invite the words of our inner knowing to substitute the louder voice. The ego speaks loudest. Annie Lamott, one of my favorite writers, Annie Lamott had a saying once where she said, grace steps up last. Grace steps up last because everything else is in the forefront. Our ego, our upset, our judgments, our fears, our self-condemnation, our condemnation of others, everything is there in front of us. And we're working as spiritual warriors as we stretch through the discomfort of our impatience or whatever it is that's tripping us up. We're working through it. We're scraping away all of those layers. And then what's left is grace. The grace of our higher holy self. And we can give thanks for that. We can give thanks for that because when we finally get in touch with it, we can find that peace. We can find that place of knowing, and we can find an easier access to the decision for heaven. Heaven is the decision that we make. And the power of decision is our own, each one of us. So with that, let's take a moment to be back in our hearts. The power of decision is my own. My choice is for heaven. No matter where I go, whatever road I take, there are going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be detours. And I can slow down and take that detour, find my way back, and continue forward toward a place of peace. And knowing that the decision is my own to choose peace, I give thanks. I give thanks for that. I give thanks for you. Amen to that. See you next week.